because new polls are out and it doesn't look good for Kamala Harris. I have not been this worried in a long time. So we don't have a lot of time left. We have less than a month left, and she's now losing in almost all the swing states. Look, I'm telling you this, not again to ha-ha or whatever. I'm telling you because the pundits are almost always wrong. They never come back and tell you, oh, yeah, we got it wrong, etc. They don't tell you oftentimes ahead of time. They do Monday morning quarterback. All those different things that they do wrong. The reason I tell you guys stuff ahead of time is so you can see whether I'm right or not. So you can see whether you should trust our analysis of what is reality, not what we want, but what is reality. So that's why in that context, let me tell you, 4 days ago, this weekend on October 5th, I wrote, I think Trump is going to retake the lead. Kamala started playing prevent defense.
Yeah, you heard it, gang. That's from the far leftist Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks, and obviously deflated and defeated Cenk Uygur, openly admitting that Kamala is losing virtually everywhere. Everything, gang. Everything is swinging to Trump as we speak. The dam is broken. The Kamala campaign is in a free fall. And we're going to see how more and more Democrats are openly panicking just like that. And we're going to see why they ain't seen nothing yet. The Kamala implosion is just getting started. Greetings, everyone. It is Live Stream Friday. I am your host, Dr. Steve, your patron professor, here to help you stay sane in these insane times. So you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Make sure to share this video far and wide. We're live on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, you name it. Like I say, if you're on Rumble, go on over to YouTube, subscribe there. If you're on YouTube, go on over to our channel on Rumble and subscribe there. Let's cross-pollinate these platforms here. We need to get these videos into as many hands as possible over the next 20-plus days to see the biggest blowout election imaginable. Also, just a quick reminder, if you want to ask me your questions during this live stream, I'll be happy to answer them. Because YouTube has suspended our super chats, they completely demonetized this channel. Just click on that link below or go to fight.turleytalks.com/join. Join any one of our levels of support. You have instant access to our very own virtual platform where you can ask me all your questions. It'll be my honor to answer them right now on this live stream. So just click on that link below or go to fight.turleytalks. I'm faking a Kamala accent. Fight.turleytalks, man. Fight.turleytalks.com/join. Join any level of support that you like, and you can ask me all the questions you want, and it will be my honor to answer them on this live stream. All right, so here we are, just 20-plus days away from the election, and we are finally seeing Kamal's numbers implode. Everyone's seeing it. There's no candy coating it. Even the Young Turks are seeing it. Everyone is seeing that the Kamala campaign is in a free fall. Now, you've been a regular to this channel, and if not, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button, but you'll know that we predicted this would happen months ago. I think I was on a beach in Maine, if I recall. Yes, Maine in late July, because that's when news broke that Biden had dropped out when his own polls were absolutely tanking to a point of no recovery. I was on a beach in Maine when I told you, don't worry, all of these puff polls that the media was championing, showing Kamala surging, they were all going to eventually pop. They were going to deflate. They're going to fall back to pre-Biden dropout levels, if not lower. And the key to that prediction was that Biden was at the very least able to hold on to a good portion of the working class vote, right? Because he's good old Scranton Joe. Old Scranton Joe was able to hold on to a significant part of the working class vote. But Kamala, San Francisco Kamala, California Kamala, forget about it. Forget about it. She would lose the working class vote in droves, including the non-white working class. There was no way she could hemorrhage that vote and still pull off a win as a Democrat. So I told you, again, this is back in July, don't worry. These puff polls are all going to eventually deflate. Remember, seriously, don't forget this, gang. This is very important. You might want to write this down. Although we're probably done with this phase, and I'll explain what I mean. The legacy media polling, the Democrat-infested legacy media polling, performs a 2-act play. Think of every presidential election as a 2-act play. The first act, that's when you see all these puff polls. And it's always, of course, always favoring the Democrat. Always. And that's because the whole purpose of these puff polls early on in the campaign is twofold. It's to fund and to fabricate. The polls are all to fund and fabricate. Write that down. The purpose of the polls in the first act of the campaign season play is to fund and fabricate. So when you see all these polls with Kamala up 8, right? Or Kamala up 10, Kamala surging, you have to remember these polls are there to make sure that first Democrat candidates become awash in cash. Democrat donors are rich, but they're not smart. They got a lot of cash, but they're political illiterates. So the legacy media knows all they need to do is see a nice poll. That's it. And they'll write a big fat check for any Democrat candidate. So that's the first purpose of these polls, to make sure Democrat candidates are well funded. And by the way, they've been very successful in that. Kamala, I don't know if you heard, she apparently has raised about $1 billion. Yeah, it's a billion with a B. It's not making any difference. But so that's the first reason you have these totally inflated, bogus polls, right? The second reason is to try to fabricate a narrative that persuades voters to move in the Democrats' direction, because nobody wants to be on the losing team, just psychologically. So these polls are there to fabricate the notion that the Democrats are well on their way to winning, and that's supposed to provoke a sociological bias in that, unless you want to be seen as a kook, someone who belongs in the margins of society, the fringe, you're going to ride the wave with the Democrats. Right? You're going to be on the winning team. So the puff polls are there to fund and fabricate. The key reason why it's so important to remember this is to realize that none of the polls that have been pushed thus far by ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, even Fox, which is notoriously left-wing in their polling, CNN, New York Times, Washington Post, none of these puff polls are pushed in order to convey reality. They know this. The legacy media knows none of the polls that we've been seeing over the last 3 months were meant to be reliable representatives of reality. They know that. They were pushing those polls to fund and to fabricate, to help Democrats win by enriching them and by garnering them as many votes as possible. But then there's a second act to this play. And that second act involves the last few weeks of the campaign. Eventually and inevitably, inexorably, when it comes down to the last couple weeks of the campaign, all the polling outlets have to save face. They have to produce actually accurate polling so that when their accuracy record is checked and measured after Election Day, their final polls are as close to the election outcome as possible. That way they continue to be considered a reputable polling outfit. So Act 1, fund and fabricate on behalf of the Democrat. But Act 2, let's see if that funding and fabrication actually worked. We can't help you after that, Democrat. We did everything we could do. Now it's your turn. And so in this stage of the campaign, this is when the polling, frankly, starts to get honest. So here we are, just 20 plus days away. And what are the polls showing? Here's our good friend, Rich Barris of the People's Pundit, the best pollster out there, best polling data analyst around. Here's his assessment. After analyzing all the polling, both national and swing states, Barris's conclusion is that it does indeed look like Harris is on the cusp of what he calls a broad collapse. Just as we've been predicting, just as he, Rich Barris, and a number of other pollsters have been predicting, Harris is on the cusp of a broad, and we might add, catastrophic collapse. Barris continued, quote, "There's an awful lot of red on RCP politics and RCP polling right now." That's the polling aggregator, right? The averaging out of all the polling out there. So it's Real Clear Politics polling aggregate. Perhaps the worst time for Kamala Harris. People are breaking. The trend is pro-Trump, and people are starting to get ballots. In other words, they're starting to vote. Worst possible time for Harris. What's he talking about? Take a look at the latest internal polling of the swing states from John McLaughlin. Now, remember, internal polling is generally far more accurate than external polling. The problem is it's very hard to get internal polling. They'll generally not leak it unless it's something like this. Then they're going to have fun with this. They're just going to do cartwheels over this. And by the way, it's simply because internal polling has a lot more money to work with. Candidates throw tons of cash at internal polling so that they know where to spend all their hundreds of millions of dollars and what counties, in what states, and the like. So you tend to get much more accurate, much more granular results. Public polling, the polling that you see with the legacy media, that's cheap polling. And my kids like this. My kids always use my family. My wife's Japanese. My family loves sushi. So my kids, if we're not going to a nice sushi restaurant, because frankly, there's not a lot here. We have to go up into Philly if we want a really nice splurge for a nice sushi dinner. If we don't have a nice place to go, my kids always say, "Hey, let's go get some cheap sushi tonight." Meaning, let's go to the supermarket and just grab some of the sushi, the pre-made sushi they have there. That pre-made sushi is legacy media polling. It's cheap polling. It's not the gourmet polling that you get in private polling. This is what we're seeing here is from John McLaughlin and Fabrizio. Take a look at this, gang. This is absolutely stunning. Trump is up in every single swing state, all 7. Make no mistake, Cenk saw this polling. The Cenk Uyghur, who you saw at the beginning of this video, he saw all this polling, and he's reading the writing on the wall. The polling doesn't change that much in the last couple of weeks. It's always been this way. Just the puff polling has begun to disappear. Look at this. Trump is up 5 in Georgia. He's up 3 in Arizona. He's up 3 in Nevada. We're going to talk about Nevada in a moment. You won't believe what their top union organization is saying right now. A union organization that generally is a bellwether for who wins Nevada. You're going to love this. He's up 1 in Pennsylvania, 1 in Wisconsin, 1 in Michigan, and 1 in North Carolina. Now, keep in mind, we've never seen numbers like this. Never. We've never seen numbers like this for Trump. We didn't see him in 2016. We didn't see him in 2020. We have never seen swing state dominance like this ever coming from Trump. But it's not just McLaughlin. Take a look at the latest swing states from Emerson. Now, again, Emerson is one of the faithful members of the polling mafia, the election cabal. Their job is to fund and fabricate on behalf of the Democrats. No one does this better than Emerson. Emerson provides the polls that raise tons of money for the Democrats and fabricate a winning narrative. But unfortunately, that's only as it were, in the first 2/3 of a presidential election. They can't do that in the last few weeks because that'll destroy their polling rating. So here you go. Here's what's really happening now. Trump is up in Arizona. He's up in Pennsylvania. He's up in Georgia. He's up in North Carolina. They're tied in Michigan and tied in Wisconsin. And he's down a single point in Nevada, a state no Republican has won since 2004 in 20 years. I will say that part again. Even Emerson, the faithful Democrat lucky, has Trump down a single point in a state no Republican has come close to winning in 20 years. Here's a perfect visual of why the Democrats are in such an obvious panic. These are the polls that have been taken over the last 2 weeks in the key swing state of Pennsylvania. Remember where we are in this play. We are in the second act. And what now are we seeing? Those are 9 polls in a row from everywhere from solid, good pollsters that don't care about the polling mafia. They're not part of the fund and fabricate mission of most pollsters. And we have a mixture of those fund and fabricate pollsters, those Democrat pollsters. But they're all showing the same thing now. It's all solid red. Oh, and by the way, gets sweeter. Don't ever forget this. Trump always, every single time, 2016, 2020, Trump always, did I mention always? Trump always overperforms his polls by upwards of 4 to 5 points. If he overperforms his polls by just 2 or 3 points, it's a solid win in Pennsylvania, way beyond the margin of fraud and the election as a whole. Take a look at this aerial view from the key swing state of Michigan. There's that RCP again, right? That's the Real Clear Politics polling averages. So Real Clear Politics takes all the polls out there and then averages them out. Back in 2016, the average polling for Michigan around this time was Clinton plus 7.3. She, of course, went on to lose Michigan. The polls were off 7.3. In 2020, it was Biden plus 6.7. Again, the polls were way off. Trump came within just a couple of points of actually winning Michigan. So what's the polling average now in October of 2024? Take a look at it, gang. Numbers don't lie. It's Trump plus 1. Trump plus 0.8. Again, you'll notice that both the 2016 and 2020 polling aggregates were off by several points, weren't they? Again, Trump always, did I mention always, overperforms his polling. So the polls are once again off by 5 points. You can see why there's so much panic on the blue side. But gang, this is nothing. When all said and done, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Wait until you see what the Democrats are really freaking out over. You're going to love it. But first, remember, if you're just joining us, if you want to ask me your questions, because unfortunately YouTube has suspended our super chats, just click. I can't talk to them. I'm doing my Kamala thing. Just click on that link. There you go. Click the link below. Fight.turleytalks.com/join. Fight.turleytalks.com/join. You have access to our very own virtual platform where you can ask me all of your questions. I will be happy to answer them in real time on this live stream. Also, I need to warn all of you. Your freedom is up for the taking. Even worse, those doing the taking are the same ones who've sworn to defend your freedom. They think they can violate your right to protect your own family. They think they can force their delusions on your children and their grandchildren. They think they can control the media and hide the truth from you, like those puff polls. But here's the key, gang. They cannot take away what they have never given you. Self-reliance means peace of mind. You know, that back stock of filtered water, it's yours. A fully charged solar generator, ready. The emergency food on your shelf, safe and secure, especially if that food is from My Patriot Supply. Having served millions of American families, My Patriot Supply is well equipped to help yours. Go to preparewithturley.com right now and stock up on their best-selling 3-month emergency food kit. That's what I've got. It delivers over 2,000 calories every day. It's sealed inside ultra durable 4-layer packaging, and it lasts up to 25 years. Oh, and did I mention it's delicious? Go to preparewithturley.com and get your kit before it's too late. It ships fast and free. Preparewithturley.com. I love My Patriot Food Supply. They're amazing. All right. with the swing state polls all breaking in Trump's direction. It's no wonder that the betting markets have all swung radically over to Trump in 6 of the 7 swing states. Again, let that hit you. 6 of the 7 swing states. People are still skeptical of Nevada because there's always this flirtation that maybe the Republican candidate can win Nevada, and then boom, Nevada's Democrat machine destroys those hopes. So 6 out of 7 are considered to be pretty safe bets at this point. Now, again, keep in mind, betting markets are reactive. They are not predictive, but they certainly reveal where all the momentum is right now. And again, it's not just the swing states. This is crazy. Take a look at this. This is coming out of the Lone Star State in Texas. Even their blue counties are swinging red. This is part of the overall national trend here, gang. Trump is on the verge of flipping otherwise reliably blue Cameron County, Hidalgo, Willacy, Brooks, Jim Hogg, I love that county name, and Starr counties in the far south of Texas in the Rio Grande Valley. We're seeing a near 20-point swing to the Republican in these counties, which again underscores just how everything is breaking for Trump. This is an abject disaster for Kamala. That's why you're seeing them all just kind of, they look so deflated with still 20 plus days to go. They're admitting it. They're literally admitting this stuff behind closed doors. Take a look at the latest from Axios. Axios' report, and this, by the way, has to do with the Sunbelt states for Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, North Carolina. Check this out. Quote, a Harris campaign staffer reveals to Axios that their Sunbelt internal polling is so bad, they're recognizing that the only viable path forward to Harris is winning both Michigan and Pennsylvania. By the way, did you remember those polls from both Michigan and Pennsylvania? 2 states where she's underwater with key demographics. The staffer noted that a sense of impending doom I'm sorry. Impending doom hangs heavily over the campaign in its final weeks, with a Trump return now feeling inevitable. The joy it's gone. The thrill is gone. This is coming from Kamala's own staff. A sense of impending doom hangs heavily over the campaign. Hangs heavily. I love it. In these final weeks with a Trump return now feeling inevitable. The joy is gone. Speaking of Sunbelt, did you see? This is from Politico. I mentioned Nevada. And this is amazing because, I mean, when all said and done, Politico is just nothing more than an arm of the DNC at this point. Remember, in your second act of the play, it's all now about seeing if the first act, all the fabrication and funding efforts worked. That's what we're in right now. The last 3 weeks, we're in that act of the campaign play where all the legacy media types have to save face. They have to report accurately what's going on. And so they're all taking a look to see if their previous 3 months of efforts to get the Democrat over the finish line worked. And they're all coming to the conclusion, it didn't. It's not working. It's not working, and nothing Kamala's doing is changing it. So here now is from Politico. This is the latest from Politico, again, which is just an arm of the DNC at this point. The Culinary Union of Nevada, which is a very, very, very strong and influential union in the state, obviously with Las Vegas there. They have had their finger on the pulse of Nevada politics, particularly Clark County politics, where Nevada is, for years now. They have come out and told Politico that, quote, we think if the election was held today, by the way, it should be were held, sorry, but if we think if the election were held today, we would lose Nevada. We, notice they're a Democrat arm, right? We would lose Nevada. If the election were held today, Trump would win Nevada. He would be the first Republican to win Nevada since 2004. That's coming from what is perhaps the most powerful union in the entire state, the Culinary Union, which is a part of the Democrat machine there. And what's key with unions, it's so interesting. They have the ability to poll their membership far more accurately than anything an outside pollster can do. Again, we're talking about internal polling again, right? We saw that with the Teamsters, who are breaking for Trump literally 2-1 among their 1.3 million membership. Just historically unprecedented. We'll get into that in a moment. Gets even better, gang. Gets even better. Take a look at the latest coming out of the otherwise reliably blue state of Virginia. The red counties, the red Republican counties, the Trumpy counties that voted for Trump by upwards of 70%, they have continued to surge in early voting, putting the Republicans back to over 40% of the early vote. Now, just to put that in context, check this out. You'll love this. Take a look at those numbers. Back in 2021, when who won West Virginia? Who won Virginia? Back in 2021 in the gubernatorial election, who won Virginia? Glenn Youngkin pulled it off, 2% win. Back when the last time a Republican took the state, the Republican early voting tally was just 34% at this time. Republican early voting in Virginia is right now outpacing the 2021 early vote when Glenn Youngkin went on to win the state. Republicans are outperforming 6 points better as we speak than the last time they were able to take that state. And that was a Republican blowout. They won down ticket. They won the governorship, the lieutenant governorship, attorney general, control of the House, you name it. Now, again, gubernatorial politics and presidential politics are different. Just ask Ron DeSantis. Okay, just ask Chris Christie. Just ask Mitt Romney. Right? Just ask Scott Walker. They are different. Gubernatorial politics are not predictors of presidential politics. So it may be too much of an ask for Trump to pull off the win in Virginia. But the very fact that Kamala is already struggling in a state that Biden won by 10 points, that Trump was never, ever, ever at any point even close to winning back in 2020, means that she is staring at an absolute disaster in the swing states that always vote to the right of Virginia. It's simple math. I mean, it's just, again, it's not, Steve, you're getting your hopes up. No, I'm not getting my hopes. I'm just looking at the numbers. If the swing states consistently vote to the right of Virginia, which they do, and Kamala is struggling in Virginia, you don't got to be a genius to figure out. Things ain't looking good for Kamala. Charlie Kirk had a very good post. I think he said it very well. A lot of you are asking if the Democrat panic is real. Trump is supposed to be in prison. Trump was supposed to be dead. Hispanics were supposed to remain solidly Democrat. Black men were supposed to be solidly Democrat. And union labor was supposed to endorse Kamala across the board. Yes, the panic is real. And speaking of real panic, here's the raging Cajun himself, Democrat strategist James Carville, sounding the alarm on MSNBC.
Feel is the election's coming November 5th. And I'm scared to death, and I'll get a time to, obviously.
You're not in a reflective mood.
Not in a particular reflective mood right now. I'm very, very concerned and very
What does
scared.
Harris need to do with the month left?
All right, the 7 month left. Let's start. We got 26 days.
Yep.
Today is gone. You're going to lose 4 to the hurricane. Just subtract that. We're going to get blank. You're not going to be able to get much out for the next 4 days. So, and everything kind of shuts down to Saturday before the election. So you're really probably under 20 days that you have to really get a message out. They need to be sharp. They need to be aggressive. They need to stop answering questions and start asking questions. They're doing all this and sitting down with 60 Minutes and sitting down with Colbert and sitting down. No matter what, if I come on your show, you're going to ask me the question.
That's true.
If I have a press conference, I get to ask the question.
You'd like to see her do more press conferences?
I'd like for her to put more things in play. Like
where she's out driving it.
Out saying, what is J.D. Vance talking about that Trump saved Obamacare, tried to just destroy it at every point? I would put President Obama out to make that. He's only got a 92% approval with Democrats. He only is the author, the father of 23 million people having insurance. I would have President Clinton going on these local TV stations talking about how tariffs are going to destroy the economy of Wisconsin or Michigan or anywhere else, because they have never worked. But we're just letting that go. And I think she and the whole campaign needs to be much more aggressive and much less passive than they are.
Yeah, good luck with that, Raging Cajun. I mean, make no mistake. Make absolutely no mistake. If Carville wasn't panicking, I should police my own grammar there. If Carville weren't panicking, he would never even have remotely said anything like that. He would never have talked that. He never talked that way in 2016. He dismissed Trump as a buffoon, as a clown in 2016. He wasn't worried at all. He didn't talk that way in 2020. He knew the fix was in. He knew Biden's victory was baked into the cake of the mail-in ballots fiasco. He knew that. He has never talked like this before with Trump. Now in 2024, he's openly freaking out. And he's been freaking out. He saw it with Biden, with the meltdown, the debate debacle. He saw it, and he was one of the ones that came out and said, you got to get rid of that guy. You got to get rid of. Now, as far as I know, he wanted an open convention. He didn't want Kamala. But nevertheless, I mean, in his panic, he is overlooking the most basic fundamental element of this campaign. He's living in an echo chamber. What Carville is missing here is that it is not the Democrats' messaging that's the problem. That's the assumption in all of this. Stop answering questions. Start asking them. Start asking the questions. I think that's what Kamala would say. It's not the messaging, James Carville. It's the Democrat policies themselves. If you look at poll after poll after poll, 75% of the population believe the country is on the wrong track. Biden was and is in the 20s or 30s with the economy, inflation, jobs, the border, foreign policy. His presidency was a disaster, not necessarily because of his cognitive decline. That just sealed the deal. That just explained a lot. It explained why he implemented such disastrous policies. And over the last 3 months, Kamala has not been able to dislodge herself from her role in those policies. And of course, thank you to the borderline illiterate ladies at The View, and thank you to Stephen Colbert. She has now publicly declared, not once but twice, that there is no fundamental difference whatsoever between her and Biden's policies. So Carville's just whistling past the graveyard if he thinks these problems that the Democrats are facing, that Kamala's facing, is just it's due to mere messaging. No, it's much more deep than that. It's because of their policies. And as for Obama, he mentioned Obama got a 92% approval rating. Well, Obama did come out to campaign for Kamala, and he did have something to say, but it wasn't what Carville was hoping for. Wait until you see this monstrosity. I think he's even throwing her under the bus. You're going to love this. But first, gang, you do have to stop putting off what you know you need to do. If you have not yet secured the deed to your home, you need to click on that link below right now and protect yourself and your loved ones. Gang, I was absolutely shocked when I found out how easy it was to access the deed to my house. And you know what? It's not just access it, but actually change it. See, the deed to your home is the only document that proves that you own it. But the problem is that the deeds to all our homes are now online, and criminals are free to find your deed. They forge your signature. I actually talked to a guy who used to do this. He showed me how he did it. They refile as the new owner of your home, and then they take out tons of loans using your home as home's equity, and then they stick you with all the debt. and you don't find out about it until months after it's happened, and don't expect homeowners insurance to bail you out. But that's where our good friends over at Home Title Lock come in, gang. They're frankly amazing. Home Title Lock gives you the peace of mind that the deed to your home is absolutely and completely protected 24/7. Click on that link below right now. Use promo code Turley Talks. Then all you got to do actually is just enter your address for your no obligation home title scan to see if you've already been a victim of deed theft. That's $100 value. You get it absolutely and totally free with my promo code Turley Talks. So don't wait for the worst to happen. Only regret you didn't do something about it when you could have. Do what I've done. Do what countless patriots have done. Click on that link below right now and secure your home today. Obama. Even freaking Obama is panicking. He's out there supposedly campaigning for cackles. He's campaigning, which, by the way, is useless because historically, Obama's got no coattails. He's never had coattails. No one he campaigns for win. He's like 0 out of 100. That's an absolute embarrassment. And here's one of the reasons why.
Is that we have not yet seen the same kinds of energy and turnout in all quarters of our neighborhoods and communities as we saw when I was running. Now, I also want to say that seems to be more pronounced with the brothers. So if you don't mind, just for a second, I'm going to speak to y'all directly and say that when you have a choice that is this clear, when on the one hand you have somebody who grew up like you, knows you, went to college with you, understands the struggles and pain and joy that comes from those experiences. He's had to work harder and do more and overcome and achieves the second highest office in the land.
He's so boring. I mean, what? You can see everyone's just kind of going, does this speech have a point? Our brother is Donald Trump, the convicted felon. That's our brother right there. I mean, and what is it with these accents? We got to talk to the brothers in this place. Now, the brothers. I can't do it. That's Obama openly blaming black men for Kamala's calamities. The brothers, as they call them. It's their fault. He's openly blaming black men for her impending defeat. And by the way, that is exactly what former Clinton pollster Doug Schoen is saying. Maybe Obama isn't being that unfair. Schoen was on Fox News the other day, and he made it clear, based on the polling that he has seen and conducted, that Trump is getting more of the non-white vote, particularly the brothers, particularly the black men under the age of 50. He's getting more of the non-white vote than any Republican candidate in over a half of century. And there's simply no way Kamala can hemorrhage traditional Democrat constituencies like that and still win the election, particularly in the blue wall states of Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, which is exactly what we're seeing in the polls and in the early voting. So Obama's just saying the now not so quiet part out loud. The coalition that he put together back in 2008, which assumed that the non-white vote was forever devoted and faithful to the Democrat Party, that always sells them out, by the way. He's recognized that coalition's unraveling. And there's no way Kamala can pull this off without that coalition. That's why it's the brother's fault. These accents, we gotta, Josh, Michael, we gotta put a reel together, a video reel of just all the accents in this campaign. Maybe, I'm sure Trump has done a few as well, but gosh, they're just so funny. Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen Polling tweeted out, quote, "It is probably fair to reason that contingency plans are being weighed right now in the Kamala and among the Democrats." And what he means by that is that we'll probably start seeing money reallocated to the down ticket races in the next couple of weeks, trying to minimize the disaster in November. Rich Barris, too, is seeing precisely that. He's saying keep an ear out for a new narrative among Democrats, which is we need to save Congress in order to keep a check on Donald Trump. We need to save Congress. So that means we can expect to see funds diverted away from Kamala and put more towards congressional races to minimize the down ticket advantage. I mean, again, the frustration they're going to have is we tend not to vote split ticket. We talk about that a lot on this channel. We tend not to vote. I think 2008, ironically, was the last time we saw a lot of split ticket voting. But generally speaking, if you vote, whatever party you vote for the president, you will tend to vote for that party, down ticket, Senate, and House races as well. There is another narrative that's forming that's a bit more sinister. And you've probably seen this. It's pretty diabolical, but it's also, again, it's showing how desperate they are getting. It's coming from members of the more radical, far-left frothing wing of the Democratic Party. They're now openly saying that they will not certify Trump's election. The repulsive Representative Jamie Raskin has told Axios News that if there's even a shred of evidence that Trump interfered in the integrity of this election like he did in 2016 with Putin, I kid you not. I kid you not. There's not even a shred of embarrassment when he says this. I kid you not. But he's literally telling Axios, well, if there's even a hint that Trump engaged in election interference, that would lead to a revolt in the House among his fellow Democrats not to certify Trump's election. I mean, the projection here is just beyond insane. How anyone cannot recognize that kind of projection. Anyone with just half a brain, it's beyond me. I guess it reveals how stupid these Democrats think you are, or at least how stupid they think their constituencies are. Now, projection aside, obviously, those comments are admissions, right? If Kamala were really as far as ahead as those puff polls a few weeks back in Act 1 of this election play were real, if they were actually conveying reality, if they were actually real, Raskin he would laugh. He would laugh. He completely dismissed the mere suggestion that Trump would ever be even close to winning the presidency. But the fact that he's not merely entertaining another Trump presidency, but openly warning he'll refuse to certify it speaks volumes to the kind of panic that's setting in among Democrats as we speak. And by the way, pay no attention to that drivel, that pathetic, desperate Democrat drivel. Pay no attention to it. They reduced themselves to the same pathetic antics back in 2000, 2004 with Bush, and 2016 with Trump. This isn't the first refusal to certify threat, and it'll go nowhere. But it does highlight the election shenanigans that the Democrats are obviously going to stoop to. So to that end, below this video, I have a number of links listed out. A huge shout out to our good friend Jack over at Red Eagles Politics. He put these links together. Make sure you send him some love. Go and subscribe to his channel. He's amazing. His polling analysis is second to none. Jack assembled a list of links to every organization that we can take part in to make sure we win this thing. So you'll see links to donate to the Trump campaign, you'll see a link to volunteer for phone banking, to call on behalf of Trump, to get that vote out, for poll watching, for voter registration, for ballot chasing, for all kinds of volunteer activities. You name it, it's all down below. Find something that you can do and make sure to do it so that we can overcome whatever election shenanigans they have planned for us and make sure to secure Trump's inevitable victory. We've got all the momentum in this election right now. That's what this live stream, I hope, has convinced you that we have all the momentum. The wind is in our sails. They are fledgling right now. It is hilarious to watch the Democrats absolutely like cartoon characters on their barnacle barge just falling apart. We are soaring right now. But it is all hands on deck to, as in the great football drama, to leave no doubt. So click any link below for and find out whatever you can do. Volunteer, give, do whatever you need to do, and let's make this happen. Leave no doubt. Over to you. Let's hear what questions you've got for me as our moderators assemble your questions. Obviously, Americans, they're tired and frustrated by a stalling economy, inflation, endless wars, and the relentless assault on our values. But thankfully, there are companies like Patriot Mobile that still believe in America and our Constitution. I'm proud to partner with Patriot Mobile because they're on the front lines fighting for the First and Second Amendments, sanctity of life, and our military and first responder heroes. Take a stand for conservative causes and put America first by switching to Patriot Mobile today. You'll get the same nationwide coverage as the big providers because Patriot Mobile operates across all three major networks. Plus, they back their service with a coverage guarantee. Their 100% US-based customer service team will find the best plan for your needs. Keep your number, keep your phone, or you can upgrade. Go to patriotmobile.com/TurleyTalks or call them at 972-PATRIOT. That's 972-PATRIOT. Right now, get a free month when you use my promo code TurleyTalks. Don't get fooled by other providers pretending to share your values or have the same coverage. And that's because they don't and they can't. Join me, switch to America's only Christian conservative mobile provider, Patriot Mobile. All right, gang, over to you. What do we got? Mark Walker, what to do about Mr. Raskin's attempt to disqualify Trump regarding the insurrection? It's going to go nowhere, Mark. Just like I said, it'll go nowhere. First of all, he doesn't have the House. I don't think they'll get the House in this election. Certainly if Trump wins. And again, it's just an admission. It's just a way of trying to fire up his base that's not fired up. As you could see, even Obama said, blaming the brothers for not coming out to vote for Kamala. The base isn't there. In many ways, you have to remember Biden basically killed. Well, in many ways, I think Trump killed the Democrat base in 2016 by siphoning off particularly the white working class back then. Now he's siphoning off the non-white working class. So we're going from an identity politics to more of a class politics, as I've heard it put. And 2020, they were able to pull it off, but not because Biden assembled a coalition. It's because of the shenanigans with 70% of all votes being cast through mail. It's that kind of shenanigans by which they would pull off. The Democrat coalition's in shatters right now. It's absolutely shattered. It's in tatters, I should say. It's been absolutely shattered. So Raskin is just doing his best to try to resurrect that coalition with some red meat for them, but he's not going to go anywhere. Not at this point. And if he actually tried to successfully stop the certification of a president that the nation overwhelmingly voted for, he will only end up destroying the Democrats. Benton, in the square in the tower, Ferguson says the tower represents hierarchical power and authority, while the square symbolizes social networks, and the decentralized power of the people, where individuals can freely connect and exchange ideas. Essentially, the tower signifies top-down control, while the square represents bottom-up influence. How would you describe the DNC and the MAGA movement in these terms? That's a really, really good question. Definitely, I would describe DNC as the term that Joel Kotkin of Chapman University calls neo-feudalism. They are proponents of neo-feudalism. That's where a tremendous amount of power and control are in the hands of very, very few people. They're the elite, the experts, the technocratic class, and they control and do their best to own everything below them, treating us basically like serfs. And they're able to quell any dissent from that through a new kind of religious fundamentalism, which is wokeness. And that religious fundamentalism doesn't allow for any dissent. Dissent, by definition, is heresy, and heresy must be excommunicated, hence cancel culture. So I see the DNC as being basically neo-feudalist in that sense. And they are, it's very interesting. When you had the Enlightenment in the 18th century and the new kind of democratic movements that came out of that in the 19th century, particularly in Europe, here in the States, of course, in the formation of our country in the 18th century, there was this notion that the laws of logic and rationality provided a common frame of knowledge to both citizen and leader, so that our political leaders now had to appeal to the same standards of knowledge that the populace, the citizens, had access to. So rationality was considered to be an indispensable component to the balance of power. This is in stark contrast to the old feudalist world, where our leaders supposedly had access to a special kind of knowledge by virtue of their ordination, whether it was by virtue of them being prince, king, or bishop, whatever it is. But they had access to knowledge that we didn't, and therefore they did not need to justify their policies to us. They just simply imposed those policies upon us. That's exactly where the Democrats are taking us back to. Democrats are taking us back to a neo-feudalized world where technocrats like Fauci supposedly have access to knowledge that the masses don't, and the masses couldn't understand or comprehend. So the moment the masses demand that their policies and their mandates be justified and defended by common sense standards, we're told to shut up. You don't have the expertise. You don't have the competence. You don't have the standards and so on, standards of evaluation. So shut up. And if you claim that you have comparable access to the same information they do, again, we're going to label it as misinformation. We're going to excommunicate you. So that's the DNC. They are all about control and power in the hands of fewer and fewer people. What we're seeing now with the MAGA movement is a mass populist backlash against that. So you're seeing this political realignment, particularly of rural working class. That's where it started, who have felt radically disenfranchised by this neo-feudalized globalist structure, which they have been. They've been radically left unemployed, for example, or just even wages undercut by mass immigration. And so you saw this extraordinary shift away from the neo-feudalized Democrats toward a more populist champion like Trump. Now we're seeing the non-white working class joining along. And at the same time now, we're seeing a new elite arise. They're technically known as the techno-right. These are people like Elon Musk, people like Peter Thiel. J.D. Vance embodies this. Vivek Ramaswamy embodied this. They made their money in the tech world. And the tech world used to be very libertarian. Then it got totally swept up over the last 7 years or so into this neo-feudalized structures we saw with the Twitter files and so forth, working hand in hand with the national security agencies, where they basically got deputized to suppress us in a way that the government couldn't because of the constitutional restraints on them. So they just basically, the technical term is sheep dipped, where national security agencies, most particularly FBI agents, supposedly were discharged from their duties in the national security agency that they work, in this case FBI, and then they go so that they can go and work for Twitter, now X. And there were so many former FBI agents working at Twitter that they had their own Slack channel and their own onboarding process. And it's called sheep dipping, where you're formally discharged from the FBI, but you're just working undercover in one of these big tech social media companies. So anyway, what we have seen probably in the last 3 years now is the rise of what's called the tech right, and we're just seeing more and more and more techies influenced by Peter Thiel, influenced by, of course, Elon Musk. J.D. Vance embodies this. Vivek embodies it. Balaji Srinivasan, where they've thrown away the Democrat. Even Mark Zuckerberg is now calling himself a libertarian. He say, I want nothing to do with the Democrats anymore. Even Mark Zuckerberg, well, I have, I'll believe it when I see it. Good. Then, restore all the accounts that were canceled and, restore us, because we're getting censored and penalized on Facebook as we speak. So let's see those libertarian values come back in there, Mark. All of this is to say we're seeing a new elite arise. And now what is that? It's what Aristotle argued for, and it's called Aristopopulism. You're always going to have an elite, always going to have an elite. As Jordan Peterson talks about, it's the Pareto principle. You're always going to have that 1% that rise to the top. You're even in communism, you're going to have that ruling class. You're going to have the equalizers on top that makes everybody else equal. Yeah, right. You're always going to have an elite, but it is incumbent upon that elite. Aristotle argued a healthy, vibrant society is where the elite enact and realize the values, interests, and concerns of the people. They have the money, the resources, and the power to make a reality the values, interests, and concerns, the advocacies of the people. So right now, the DNC represents an oligarchy. Right now, they represent literally an autocracy, where an elite few are dictating to the masses the values, interests, and concerns that will be realized. You can have total chaos with the people uprising and cutting off the heads of all the elites, like we saw in the French Revolution. Or you can have what Aristotle called, well, he didn't call it that, but scholars would call it Aristopopulism, where the aristocracy, the elite, amass the power and the wealth needed to realize and make possible, enforce, and defend the values, interests, and concerns of the people. Trump started it. And now with, my heavens, the Kennedys in there, Elon Musk's in there, J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance made his money in tech as well. And he really embodies that. He's both, Appalachia, and he is the tech right. He is also very, very well to do. So he brings those two worlds together, the working class with the elite, so as to create an Aristopopulism that brings our nation into the next century. I think that's what's going to be the most promising thing of that from the RNC and the MAGA movement. Great question. I riffed on that for a while. Forgive me. We got to get guys. Let me know how many questions we have so I can time this out better. Terry, last week, 10 delegates in the West Virginia House introduced a concurrent resolution saying West Virginia would refuse to recognize the winner of any election decided by fraud or assassination. They even called on the governor to call the legislature into special session to consider actions to protect the freedom of our people. That action might start with nullification, but can also lead or only lead ultimately to secession. I thought Texas would lead the way to secession if Harris wins. Comments, Terry. This is actually the first time I've come across this, so thank you. That's why I love interacting with you guys, because you give me so much news here on the ground. It'd be very fascinating to see. I mean, West Virginia is obviously solid red. Justice should win the Senate seat by what? By 70% of the vote, you know? So it's solid red. They finally got rid of Manchin, the last bastion of Democrat there. And we'll have to see. We'll have to see. If Kamala were to win, I think nullification would be the default the default position of most all red states. I think the citizenry, good citizens like yourself, would demand that. Very similar to what we saw Greg Abbott doing on the wall, in the border wall, in the face of the Biden campaign. I mean, he or the Biden White House. I mean, he even told the Supreme Court to stick it. So my responsibility is to protect and secure the border and protect and secure the people of Texas. And if you are going to try to step in between me and my sacred obligation, I will choose that sacred obligation every single time. So, yeah, again, Kamala wants you to forget that when they were given a 24-hour window or so, or week window because of the Supreme Court, remember what they did? They brought bulldozers in and opened up the walls, the makeshift walls, and wiring, barbed wires that Greg Abbott and the Texas National Guard had set up. I mean, that's what they did. And then she says she's going to secure the border. I mean, give me a break. These people they have to think we are absolute ridiculous liars, or stupid to be able to lie that way. So anyway, all of that's to say, nullification, I think, will be. I mean, Ron DeSantis has already been doing this with the CDC, setting up their own Surgeon General in Florida, and that nothing that the Surgeon General, the CDC, or even the WHO for that matter, wants to try to impose upon Floridians will get passed unless it is okayed by their own state-centered CDC panel and Surgeon General. So I think nullification will be the standard if Kamala wins. Again, that's going to be part of my video of what do we do if what now if Kamala wins? What should we prepare for? And obviously, Texas will be a big thing. Dan Miller will get more. He'll get more emails. I think his email box will be able to handle. I think we're definitely going to see nullification as the default orientation towards Washington, D.C., which most everyone will see as broken beyond repair. There's no way Kamala can win and it be considered a legitimate win. I mean, there's just no way. I mean, whether it was the lawfare, whether it was all the shenanigans that they were pulling with this primary process, where they, for the first time since 16 when they first had open primaries, for the very first time since the early 20th century, they have a candidate that never had to win a single primary. Nobody's going to buy it. All the blatant bias of the legacy media that everyone saw on display at the night of the presidential debate. Kamala is a de facto delegitimized president from day one. And so I think there'll be tremendous power to nullify anything that's coming from D.C. Kevin, could the lack of government action, the hindering of people trying to deliver supplies, aid, and support actually just boil down to supplies not coming from government-sanctioned suppliers? If you want to help, do you have to make sure FEMA gets a kickback? It's a good question. That's a great question, Kevin. I don't know the answer to it, but obviously it's been a disaster. Remember, we've been talking about this concept known as brokenism. And this is Newhouse. Is it Amanda Newhouse? She argues that the time we're living in can be characterized by brokenism. Everyone sees that our institutions, from Katrina to to Helene, to the fires in Maui, to the floodwaters that we're seeing here in Western North Carolina. I mean, everything is broken. Everybody sees it. We saw it in COVID. We saw it everywhere. Everything is broken. Now there are basically two constituencies: brokenists who believe it's broken beyond repair and needs to be replaced. And so Trump and Elon Musk and J.D. Vance and Kennedy, these are the guys who could come in. These outsiders could come in and actually fix it. And then there is the status quoists, those who believe that, yes, the system is broken. Yes, the legacy media is broken. Yes, academia is broken. Yes, federal bureaucracy is broken. But at least those institutions may still have the resources we need to find solutions to the problems they created. I know it's insane, but that's the Democrat Party today. That's Liz Cheney, right? That's the Cheneys in general. That's Mitt Romney. That's half of that's all the Republicans that are coming on over. The 200 Republican establishment members who are siding with Kamala Harris. Let that hit you. Well, it's not because they side with Kamala and her policies per se. It's because they're status quoists. They are part of the establishment, and they believe the establishment still has the resources necessary to be able to solve the problems that it creates. Bottom line. Neil, hi, Dr. Steve. When the VP has to count the Electoral College, will she not do it? Oh, okay. Plank owner of the cruise. Let's see. Plank owner of the cruise. Is that it, Neil? I'm trying to remember if I met you there. Forgive me if I've forgotten. No, she won't do it. No, I mean, again, it would be a disaster for the Democrats were she to do that. Be an absolute disaster. She won't do it. Again, the whole thing with Pence was that the election was so obviously strange. There's 17 bellwether counties in the nation. Trump won 16 of the 17 bellwether counties. He was in the lead in all swing states when we all went to bed. And then we woke up in the next morning after all these truckloads of ballots showed up. All of a sudden, now it's Biden. And what the hell's going on? And so the pressure on Pence was to send back the electors to Arizona, to Georgia, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and work this out. Resolve this to the satisfaction of your voters, because that's all we wanted. We just wanted these concerns to be addressed rather than dismissed. I mean, something like that could happen, but just based on the precedent that Democrats themselves have established as a result of J6, I don't see 2020. I don't see that happening. We'll see, though. It may be interesting. Terry, how do I give the white pill to a permanent black-pilled fellow Virginia resident who thinks Northern and Eastern Virginia, which are full of federal employees, will carry the state for Harris no matter what effort Republicans made? He even said he'd advise the RNC not to spend money in Virginia. What do I tell him? Well, so that's a great question, Terry. I would say you are probably right. Trump will most likely not win, but this is a battle. So what are we doing? What we're doing is we're making Harris have to expend desperately needed resources in a state that should have been safe, in a state that Biden won by 10 points. She'll be lucky if she wins it by 5. She'll be lucky if she wins it by half of them. By the way, that's what we're seeing in New Jersey and New York. We're seeing that Harris is only getting about half the margins as Biden got in 2020, which then means, how do you think she's doing in Eastern Pennsylvania? That has some of the sleepover population of New York, of Manhattan. How do you think she's doing there? If she's only getting half the margin in New York that Biden got, how's she doing in Eastern Pennsylvania? So that's the point. If she has to fight for a state that should be as safe as, I don't know, what's a 10-point, it should be as safe as Florida, like it is for Trump. As people have said, as commentators have pointed out, Kamala is more in risk of losing Virginia, infinitely more so than Trump is of losing Florida. So if that's the case, then what we want to do is we want to get them to have to exhaust as much resources as possible in a state that's supposed to be safe, so that we can pummel her even more in the swing states like Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, that all vote to the right of Virginia. So it's an overall national strategy. So he doesn't have to win Virginia. That's the key. He's got to start thinking strategically. Doesn't have to win Virginia. All he's got to do is crush her margins to the point where, if she's winning by less than 5, we basically know how the rest of the night. Just ask Hillary what happened the last time a Democrat won by just 5 points in Virginia. Just ask her. So tell them to stop this effing blackpilling. I got into this broadcasting back in 2016. And what made this channel totally unique, it was the one channel that never had a black-pilled video. All the videos were optimistic. And they were all optimistic based on studies that were conducted by liberal academia that said the old liberal globalist world was dying and a new religious, post-secular, post-globalist age was rising. And that was my overall message. Stop focusing on this election, that election, blah, 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 blah. Start focusing on these trends. And then we'll eventually start seeing a lot of these elections conform to those trends. Not all of them, because that's not how history works. History's jagged, right? It moves up, it moves down, but there's an overall trajectory. And I think I've been proven right over these 8 years. Look at Europe now. Who's running Europe compared to who's running Europe back in 2016? Look at the Brexit vote, for heaven's sakes. The European Union starting to get dismantled. Italy, France, Hungary, Sweden. Freaking Sweden has a far-right government right now. Sweden, Jimmy Åkesson and the Sweden Democrats. They're closing their borders. They're doing mass deportations in the single most liberal nation in all of Europe. Stop effing blackpilling. Stop. Ugh. I get it. Conservative, look, because the modern world is liberal. The age we've lived under for the last century has been radically liberal, and it is radically detraditionalized and hollowed out our nations. I get it. But, develop a disposition that's reflective of reality as it's moving in terms of trajectory, and the trajectory is all moving in our favor. So enough with the blackpilling. There you go. Old Polar. If they're bringing out Obama and Clinton, does that mean Harris is losing really bad? Look at that. See, that is good, genuine, bona fide common sense. You got it, Old Polar. That's exactly what it is. If they have to go back into their archives to try to rescue a glory era, it's over. It's over for them. She's falling apart. You can change it. Thank you. Lex, I heard the adults of D.C. say on X that if Trump wins the election, they plan to immediately remove him from power. Do they have the power to do it? No. And could they get away with it? No. No, not even close. Not even. Again, this is all just trying to jazz up they're desperately trying to jazz up their bait. They don't say, remember, nobody says anything in D.C. because it's true. Don't forget that. Write that down. Nobody ever says anything in D.C. because it's true. They're saying something in D.C., whatever they're saying, in order to do something, in order to produce an effect, in order to provoke or evoke. They're never conveying reality. It's all a simulacrum. It's all simulated reality. Because it's all for their own power and wealth. And this, unfortunately, half the Republicans have been participants in this as well, i.e. Liz Cheney. So don't listen to them as if they're communicating reality. Listen to them as, okay, what was that comment? How is that supposed to function as a dog whistle? What is it trying to trigger? And it's trying to trigger Democrats to rise up and fight back against Orange Man Ogre Bad. That's all it is. So no, they don't have that. They're not going to be able to stop him. If he wins fair and square, as it were, they're done. They're over. Dr. Turley, I've seen articles from Arizona that state they're signing up illegals for full ballot. Can Trump win without Arizona? Yeah, no, he can. Sure. If he wins the blue all states, it's over. Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania lock it up for him, as I understand it, along with Georgia. They're not signing up illegals by any stretch of the imagination comparable to the Republican voter registrations. So if you're seeing Republican voter registrations, say like a 6% advantage, I think there's 200,000 or 300,000 voter registration advantage of Republicans right now in Arizona. If all of a sudden you see Democrats swing up 10% over Republicans, now we got a problem. I'm with you. Now we got a problem, period. But even if they're registering a bunch of illegals, the Republicans over the last 4 years have amassed such a huge margin of the registration advantage. It's going to be very difficult to be able to overcome overnight. Plus, everyone who's registered can be vetted. Right. This is where you have the chain of custody sort of and canvassing protocols to see who are these people who are voting. And if they're illegal, by definition, they cannot vote. Those votes can be kicked out, and the Supreme Court would find that without a problem. I mean, that's against federal law. So I just don't see it as I don't see the illegals that they're registering having that big of a factor in this election. Again, I could be wrong, but I'm just not seeing it in the system. I'm not seeing them overwhelm the registered Republican lead, which is massive. It's about 6 points. And that includes Maricopa County. The Republicans are up 5 points or so in Maricopa. And he who wins Maricopa wins Arizona, generally speaking. So, Quark, Public Square rescheduled. Yeah, will it be in Orlando or somewhere else? Good question, Quark. I don't know. I'm waiting to hear from Michael Seifert, the CEO of Public Square. I was looking forward to that, man. We should have been doing that right now. And I had a great speech, a real cool speech, too, about the rise. Actually, we were going to talk a little bit of that Aristopopulism and the new tech right that's rising up and basically coming to the rescue of our brokenism. Elon is rescuing NASA astronauts stuck in outer space. SpaceX is coming to the rescue. Starlink is coming to the rescue of flood victims. Samaritan's Purse is coming to the rescue, and the Red Cross, and giving financial aid and food and comfort and so forth. Samaritan's Purse, of course, is Franklin Graham's organization. So I mean, it's the parallel economy that's winning today. The broken system is eventually going to go the way of the ash heap of history. Joan, have you seen these two pieces of news? The Ninth Circuit Appeals Court has ruled that the COVID shot scare, not vaccines, which I'm sure is panicking pharma. Let's see. Hold on. That Ninth Circuit Court has ruled that the COVID shot scare, I guess you're saying, are not vaccines, which I'm sure is panicking pharma. And two, come on, guys, let's roll this. No, is that it? Okay, that's it. Sorry, Joan. I don't know what the second one is. Nothing else. Okay, Mike. Yeah, I did see something on that. Not enough to comment on it. I know that was a lawsuit that was there to get the designation of the vaccines rescinded. The whatever we were getting, they are not technically vaccines. They do not fit the vaccine, the technical definition of a vaccine. If the Ninth Circuit has ruled, which is, by the way, has gone, thank you to President Trump, has gone way to the right. It used to be a loony bin of leftism. If they've ruled in accordance with that, that's awesome. That's a victory for our side. No question about it. Here we go. That Biden actually said in a meeting that in a crisis, there were no blue states or red states. Your thoughts on these? Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, well, that's the way it should be. Unfortunately, I see the White House as a slow walking aid particularly to Western North Carolina, that's overwhelmingly red in its districts. But it looks like they're getting, again, thank you to the parallel economy patriots out there who are volunteering and doing amazing things, including several congressmen, by the way, good Republican congressmen. I don't think Democrats are doing shit for them. Sorry, I get very upset whenever this issue comes up. I get very, very upset. North Carolina's governor should be literally tarred and feathered. Well, no, I shouldn't say that, but he should be booed and ridiculed in scorn out of his office. He's just what he's done is so disgusting. In terms of his lack of any kind of mobilization and resource that's significant. Yeah, of course, there are no blue states or red states in a crisis. But does Biden mean that? And he doesn't do much. It's his administration. They're all rabid leftists. Paul, the fug. Carville talking about what the fuck? Carville talking about tariffs did work the first time when Trump used them on China to help bring back U.S. manufacturing ingredients, and there's a threat to Mexico to get in the Stay in Mexico policy. How's this guy a Democrat strategist? He's faithful to the power structure. It's all about power structure. It's all about power structure. If what you do, so if you rig an election, if you openly and explicitly interfere in the democratic integrity of election by presenting as real a fabricated Russian dossier and a fabricated Russian collusion hoax, but you're doing it in order to expand the power of the state, nothing will happen to you. Nothing at all. Zippo nada. But if you stand up to election rigging in any way in the name of pushing back against the amassing of political power and affluence, then you will be destroyed at any cost. So Carville's just part of that machine, and he's just talking straight out of his butt, as he always does. What's good with Carville is we get to see how the Reagan Cajun is panicking. He's in a way, again, look at his comments back in 2016, look at his comments back in 2020. He was as confident as a cucumber that Trump was going down in flames both times. He was humiliated in 2016, and he knew what was baked in the cake in 2020. He is openly panicking now because he knows, or seems to know, they don't have the same infrastructure for the shenanigans they pulled off in 2020, and Kamala is not going to be able to win fair and square. That's what he's seeing. And he's freaking out. So don't listen to a word the guy has to say about policy. He's a political ignoramus in that sense. Sociological, economic, and cultural ignoramus. Rock dog. Dr. Steve, either someone, Kamala Harris team has the IQ of an amoeba, or they really want her to fall faster than Willie Brown's boxers to send her to a sex talk podcast. The Spew. What do you think? Yeah, no, dude, I think it's the former. I think they are idiots. I think she is an idiot, and I think she attracts idiots. I think she is attracting the same team that tried to get her the Democrat nomination 2020 that was a disaster, and they're doing now the same thing. And it's a disaster. They think the world thinks like they do. They think the world thinks like these pathetic sex podcasters, right? Call her daddy, idiots. These moral zombies pervade her campaign, and they feel like as long as she just talks about being from a middle-class neighborhood and abortion, they're good to go. And obviously, it's not working. Obviously, it's not. So I think it's the former. But I'm sure there's plenty of Democrats in the wider operative scene that would love to see the latter. Chip the Enlightened, as disturbing as it is for pet lovers, I've recently been seeing videos showing these immigrants killing pets and animals. Why is no one spreading these to show the doubters the real truth? Now stop, Chip. Stop. See, that's the black pilling crap I can't stand. Of course they're sharing it. I've seen them. Of course they're all over X. They're getting millions of views. What are you talking about, Chip? Stop that. Of course they're seeing it. Now, if you're in the Democrat ecosphere, they don't want to see them. They're gonna keep their eyes wide shut to reality. But of course, everyone's seeing it. So, are we too hurricane folk? No, they're everywhere, man. I'm seeing them. I'm seeing them too. I saw the cat one, the guy in the backyard with the cat. I saw it. So it's all over X, and I encourage everybody to check it out on X. Go to X. That's the only, really, in the end, the only reliable minute by minute news coverage we're getting nowadays. All the other platforms are pathetic, except YouTube and Rumble and so forth. Make sure Gab and you name it. Franz, with Kamala's tendency to co-opt Trump's policies, along with the must-win potential of Pennsylvania, could it be her history as Willie Brown's mistress that explains her reluctance to adopt baby Drill? You had to have thought of that, Franz. You thought of that all week, and you were waiting for this moment. Drill, baby Drill. Maybe just the way you put that. So you're a wordsmith too. Her reluctance to adopt. Yes, Franz, probably. I would have. She's a disturbed person. You know, I don't know if you saw her on the Telemundo town hall where she was like, "Gay, are you okay? Are you okay?" So everyone's calling her Gay Kamala, QUE. Come on, Gay Kamala. It's a new accent she brought out. Yeah, she's just obviously a very disturbed person. And she's not doing well right now. She's choking both figuratively as well as literally. She's having a hard time speaking. And we're getting word of that. We're getting word from her operatives that she's buckling under the pressure of this. She can't really help it. So anyway, we'll see. T-Man, do you think the Democrats should lose the election due to the constant sending money overseas? But stiffing the American citizens who need help in the wake of the recent storms? Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. They are America last. The problem is that a good portion of our population, 35-40% of the population, is America last as well. We are that portion of the population is what is technically referred to as post-America. And they've bought into the narrative that America is not worth saving. They bought into the narrative that America should be overrun. America should be, California should be turned into Mexifornia. America should be overrun by migrants and third world nations. Absolutely, it should be. They have the affluence or just the anger and the resentment needed to withstand it. So our metropolitan areas, cosmopolitan areas, high culture, they're all still, they are radically globalist. And as globalists, they do not have any loyalty to a nation. And so they are post-American in all kinds of ways. And unfortunately, even Cheneyite Republicans, John Boltonite Republicans, they're all for it. They send more and more money overseas. It doesn't matter what happens here, particularly in Appalachia, particularly in Western North Carolina. Doesn't matter. They don't matter. There is a deep-seated hatred for about half our country right now, and it's just very sad. CH, what happens if enough of them refuse to certify Trump's election? Other than further proof to some of the normies that Dems are hypocrites who don't believe in democracy at all. Yeah, exactly. No, I think you would see an uprising the likes of which the nation has never seen. I think it would probably be the end of the Democrat Party if Trump was freely and fairly elected, but then you have a bunch of Democrats refusing to certify his election. I think they would destroy themselves. Easy. Rock Dog, there's Steve. What rut skin? We're going to have to publish your book of wittisms. What Ratskin said would, in effect, by Democrats committing an insurrection. Of course it would. So who really undermines our process? Exactly. That's exactly what it is, Rock Dog. It's just, again, that's what I mean. It's just pure projection. They're just ridiculous. And they would only undermine their own electability in the end. Catherine, can the Republicans arrange for disguised citizens to monitor all U.S. post office drop boxes and top drops after 12 a.m. day after Election Day? If they stop the steal by blocking the boxes, the one trying to drop many votes cannot report the blockage a crime, as they're committing a crime themselves. We need to leave no fingerprint nor DNA in this effort. That's really interesting, Catherine. So in the links down below, check that out right now. Just scroll up and look down at the links down below. And thank you to Jack at Red Eagle Politics who provided those links. And then guys, make sure the links, Josh and Mike, and make sure all the links are integral, right? Just check a couple of them just to audit, make sure they're good. But find the appropriate organization you think would be in charge or would advocate for something like that. So find. I've had to have given you about a dozen links down below of organizations to get involved in to make sure Trump wins this hands down. Leave no doubt, right? See which one you think would be most applicable to what you're talking about there. Because there's got to be one. Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, Arizona now has a lot that would allow counties not to certify an election if there's a question of fraud that needs to be addressed that came up in any other county. Do you think that law will stop the globalists and rhinos and the Democratic plantation trying to steal any more elections in Arizona like they did to assist the hobgoblin, Katie Hobbs, in stealing the governor's selection? We'll see, Rock Dog. Hopefully we're not going to have to worry about that. The lead, I mean, again, voter registration leads tend, if they favor the Republican, tend to favor the Republican candidate. A lot of times Democrats amassed voter registration leads over years and years and years of Democrat dominance in our politics post FDR. So they often vote to the right of their registration leads. Republican voter registration leads tend to vote on par, as I understand it, with those registrations. So Arizona's way up right now. 6-7 points Republican advantage. So again, the key is, Rockto, check out those links down below. See if there's any organizations that might be applicable to those concerns, and then just contact them and see what's being done. CH, why do they hate our country, specifically these ones that are so privileged? It's just the years of commie infiltration in our schools. That's part of it, CH. That's part of it. So, I mean, it goes back to the 19th century. There was an aristocratic, it was popular among the aristocrats of the 19th century to kind of just hate on our country and just hate on Western civilization. There was a sense that the Industrial Revolution sort of disenchanted our society. And our society, I mean, remember, 19th century began as a pastoral rural society. 90% of of the American population lived in rural areas. Only about 10% were in cities. At the end of the 19th century, it reversed. 90% were in cities, 10% were rural. So they faulted our society for becoming too machine-like, too industrialized, losing sort of the Edenic, exotic nature of what you still had in, Fiji and in the Bahamas and just in kind of in lands that had not gone industrialized at the time. So they tended to beat up Western civilization as and then that tended to be a mark of being an educated person, that you had a global, international, cosmopolitan outlook on life if you started beating up on your own country. That just became popular among our elites in the mid to late 19th century. And then, yeah, it seemed to have filtered into our academia and our universities. Certainly in the 30s, 40s, 50s, it got blended together with cultural Marxism, like you're saying, the commie infiltration in our schools, that basically said our society is fundamentally oppressive and is actually wicked. So it went a step further, but the ground was already seeded in the 19th century with that discourse, and then it went down to K to 12, and again, it's just this notion you're truly you show yourself to be a cosmopolitan globalist citizen, a truly educated person, because that's what all our K to 12 and university vision statements and mission statements are all about now. Check them out. We are here to make to cultivate global citizens. It's not about patriots, people who love faith, family, and freedom. Nope, that's gone. It's being a global citizen. You show your bona fides. You communicate those bona fides to others when you hate on your own country, when you hate on those who want to conserve our unique cultures, customs, and traditions. So that's I think it has 130-year, 40-year history, and it's taken a while. Ironically, it's only made it to about 35-40% of the country. Yeah, I mean, that's the good news, I guess. 60% of the country is untainted by it. But then there's still a good amount that buy into the status quoism, of which they're all a part. These cultural Marxists are all a part. The status quoism is that our public institutions, our legacy media, our academia, our federal bureaucracies still have enough integral resources that can solve the problems. They're not ready to go fully on the brokenness side as we are on, that said, nope, got to redo. Got to do a major redo. It's got to be replaced. Bill, overheard at breakfast this morning, as many as 30 million Christians are sitting this one out. What have you heard? If so, would this make a big enough difference? Well, Charlie Kirk is saying that, and it's based on a Barna poll. And any Barna poll I see, I tend to be very, very suspicious of, because Barna is the biggest black pillar on the planet. I think that's just how he makes his money. I would want to see the polling integrity of that. Outside of Barna, I haven't heard it. Outside of Barna, that's the study that Charlie Kirk pointed to. And outside of Barna, I haven't heard it. If it's true, then I know why the people of God wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. I mean, God spared Trump. We saw a bona fide miracle in front of our very eyes on J13 in Butler, Pennsylvania. And if God's people are going to turn their back on that miracle, I think that just speaks for itself. Franz, with Trump scheduling a rally in California, does it make sense to publicly put his support behind Steve Garvey, who's running against Adam Schiff? I thought he already did. So yeah, because Steve Garvey's great. No, I think he'll do that. Trump is going for the popular vote, the PV, as we say. He's going for the popular vote. That's clear. So they have internal polling. We're talking about the difference between private polls and public polls. Public polls are cheap sushi. Private polls are your gourmet sushi. With a full Japanese chef and everything, right? And his private polls are clearly showing he's got the electoral college wrapped up. Now let's leave no doubt. Let's get the popular vote. Let's get the PV. So he's trying to shave off the margins. He's in Colorado right now. He's no way he's going to win Colorado, but he's shaving off the margins in Colorado. Our vice president right now, he's outside of Denver. He's the vice president. Turley Talks is at a Trump rally right now, his first Trump rally ever, because Trump has come out to Colorado. So he's just trying to shave off their margins so as to win that popular vote. It's absolutely stunning stuff. So yes, I'd love to see him throw support behind Steve Garvey if he's not already done explicitly yet. And with that, gang, have a wonderful weekend. I will see you on Monday for the countdown to the big day, November 5th. Love you guys. God bless.